So the question we get asked most on the garden centre, I think, is how do you plant a tree? And if you've been doing them before or a long time, it might seem obvious. But if you're a new gardener, you've never done one before, or you want to get it right, then I'm going to go through every step, stage by stage, everything that I've always done, you know, since I was a lad, the way I've been trained to do trees. Now, there's more than one way to plant a tree. There's probably 100 ways. But I'm going to show you the way I do it. It works for me. Hopefully it will work for you, and we'll see how we go. So we've got this lovely apple tree, which is a Fiesta apple. It's like a cock style. We're going to put that in. These are the products we're going to be using with it. A tree and shrub planting feed, which has got this mycorrhizal fungi. That really helps the roots get going. We're going to use a little bit of that. We're going to use tree planting compost, a little bit of that, a couple of stakes and tree ties. We're going to go through every stage step by step. So if you think it'll be useful, keep watching and we'll see how we go. So obviously the first thing to do is decide where the hole is going to go. Well, we know that this one, we're having a run of trees here for the boss's young son to have a little mini orchard for himself when he grows up. So it's going to go about here. So I'm going to take my tree, gently knock off the pot, and have a look at the root system. Just make sure, this is what I'm looking for, these nice white fresh growing roots that are going to make a difference. I'll gently put that down, but ever so gently I'm just sort of teasing this soil open a little bit. Otherwise, you see how the roots are growing around. If you're not careful, they can grow around like that, and when you pull them out 5, 10, 20 years later, sometimes they've still got this round, bound up shape, and we don't really want that. We want these roots to spread far and wide, or at least in their spot here, so that they support the tree, hold him upright, and feed and water him as he grows through his lifetime. Okay, just gently do those, don't want to break them off. Now, taking the empty pot in the spots where it's going, put that there. The question we get asked a lot again is, how big do you dig the hole? What I like to do is about half as much as the pot again, so whether you can see that there with the camera angle, but I'm digging around the pot, just cutting through the turf at the moment, and leaving about 50 mil, a couple of inches, all the way around, which will give room for obviously the pot to go in, but also for some compost to go around the outside of the roots that's more similar to what the plant is already growing in. If we were just to dig a hole as big as this and pop them in, those roots would suddenly meet a new environment, a mineral soil that they're not used to, and I suppose they're a bit like people. They just, oh, not sure about this, and they sort of clam up and they won't grow as well as they would if we sort of half and half their new environment. So we'll just quickly lift out this turf. Put that aside. Put that in that divot there, that will help. That could always go on the compost heap, or if you make a pile and put it upside down, green to green, hide the grass, that will turn into nice topsoil, but I'll use that somewhere else later on. So clear all these away. Now then, here's one thing we do. Just have the wheelbarrow there, please. Just come closer with the camera back. You're digging in your garden, your field, or wherever you are. Normally the top few inches, 4, 6, 10 centimetres of soil is better than what's below, or what we call the subsoil. So without digging too deeply, take this out, removing any grass. You don't want that in there really. Take this soil, save this so that we can create a sort of halfway house for the plant for its new environment. Because what we're going to do in a few minutes, is mix this good topsoil with some of that compost, and the plant, when it goes in the tree, will sort of say, well, I kind of recognise where I am. Yes, don't mind growing in this environment. But if we just popped him straight into this soil here, it wouldn't like it. It's not the same for him. Tree root in here from before, we'll get rid of those. There's not been anything planted here. Get rid of any big stones as well. We don't want those. So I'm just about come to the end of the nice topsoil now. Until the colour starts to change in your gardens, it will either turn sandy or look like clay, and when you get to that, tell it's already harder here. I'm going to put that somewhere else, which is in these divots, because that really is no use to me, to us, for this particular situation. So again, we've just taken the top few centimetres, few inches of the reasonable soil, and saved it here in the wheelbarrow. Now, the next thing to decide, getting warm, is how deep to dig the hole. So obviously it's got to be at least as deep as the current root ball of the plant, so just gently check. At the minute that's slightly proud. Now what I like to do, which makes my life easier in the future, is to put this slightly lower than the existing ground level. And I'll tell you why in a moment, but you can see here we've just got to go a little bit deeper. Have a look in the hole here with the camera. I'm digging the sides straight down, sort of loosening the sides up a little bit as well. I don't want to, especially this soil's not too bad actually, it's quite nice, but in clay you can make like a brick wall with nowhere for the plant to sort of get going. A few stones in this bit now, I'm going to get those out. Put them over there. Look. Get rid of those. And now we want to see how deep that is. Again, just going to gently check with the plant. Good, that's a little bit deeper than I would normally go. So what we're going to do underneath, so that these nice roots at the bottom have got something decent to rest into, just going to make and put some new compost at the bottom of there, which will just raise the plant up to about this level, and then we can do what we're going to do. But there's a couple of things we need to do first. Right, that's one of them. It's getting warm digging in the sunshine. We've chosen to do it today. It's still February. It's still the early part of the year. But it's a warm day. The soil's moist, but it's not freezing. It's not sodden. It's just about right for planting a tree. So that's why we've waited till today to do that. So just pop it in Just loosen that right at the bottom there. What we're going to need for this tree to stop him blowing around, it's fairly sheltered here actually where we are between these polytunnels, but I'm just going to put a couple of tree stakes in. So put one there. And one there on this side. So that they are opposite each other, reason for which I'll explain. Now he's a bit offset in his plant pot there, so I'm just going to make a bit more room on this side so that stakes kind of sit fairly central. There it goes, fairly central. Now we can put that tree stake here. Now, I haven't just put them in willy-nilly. I happen to know that the prevailing winds from where we are come in this direction. They're going to blow the tree away from this stake. So, if you only have one stake, you put it on the windward side, so it takes it away, prevailing winds. However, the wind changes, doesn't it? So, I like to put two stakes in, one on this side as well, and I'll fasten the tree between the two so he won't be able to rock either way. You can see that they're too high. Look, they're already sticking to the branches, they don't really want that, so I'm just going to give those a little tap, my friend. Hopefully won't hit a water pipe. Wouldn't be the first time though if it did. Hardly ever going straight, but you know, you can live with that. On bigger trees you're going to want bigger, thicker stakes. A bit more awkward, but for this little one here, it's going to be about right. I'm just going to check when he's in. Perhaps take those down a little bit more. Right, good. So, now I did forget to bring was a knife. So, excuse, I'm just going to have to rip this bag of compost open. Again, this is a tree shrub planting compost. I like a load of products. Well, you've got one. Let's have that, thanks. Makes it easier. Looks neater as well. Right. Thank you. So this is lovely stuff. Similar to what the tree's actually grown in. But what I'm going to do is mix that in with the topsoil that we took out of the hole and make about a 50-50 mix, like this. Haven't got to be too exact. Worm, you can go back in the hole with it. We like the worms. Now then, so traditionally at this point you put a bit of bone meal in the hole, but these days we've got something better. In this case I'm using it's Vitax's product, tree and shrub planting feed, and it's got this, can you see those words, mycorrhizal fungi. The trade name is rootmore. What this is, what they've discovered is that in the soil there's special fungi that have a symbiotic relationship with the plants that are in there. They work together. plant works with the fungi works with the soil. They work together, and it helps the plant establish a relationship in its new home. So for this one tree, I'm going to want a couple of handfuls. Sprinkle that into my mix there, which I'll mix in. I'm going to put one in the mix, then I'm going to put one around the hole. It's a bit smelly. It smells like bone meal. All the vital plant foods in natural organic form. Well, you can smell the organic, I tell you. I always think the worse something smells, the better it must be for the garden. Right, just going to mix that in. If you put more, it doesn't matter. But if you could just be wasting it. A little bit in. There. So we get this nice. You just hold the barrow there for me, please. Nice mix. I think you put a bit more of the trees for composting. Right, you get a close up of that cake. That looks great now. It's half and half between soil that came out and the compost that I've put in, and it's a good medium to be putting that tree root into. That's grown in a compost, especially for nurseries. This is the hard natural soil, and this is where it's going to live in between. When it's established in this, then it won't mind so much going into the soil around it and making a relationship. So I'm just going to put a little bit in the bottom of the hole. Breaking that up so it's nice and soft down there. That should be about right, and I'm just going to check. You see the hole nicely, don't you? Check how that sits on there. Gently lower him in. As I say, I'm aiming to put this. See whether if I scrape that back a bit, you can see those the roots where this is. Obviously, this tree is grafted here. This is the sort of wild root, and then this is the graft of this particular type of tree. If I go too deep and go over this is going to root out from here, probably grow a wild apple tree, which we don't want that. And we don't want to be building the compost up too high up here either. Too low. That's the thing. Well, I suppose this is going to be the ground level, sort of about there. I think that's about right. What I need to do now is just make sure there's a gap all around. I think I'd like it if there was a bit more of a gap on this side. So I'm just going to open up that hole there a bit. Just carefully get rid of that without getting rid of what I've just put in. Oh, there's a stone there, that's why. Let's get rid of that. It's a big one. Landed in my hat, right, okay. I'll just pop a little bit more on there just to raise him up. Right, welcome to your new home, Mr. Tree. And there, so I want him pretty much central between the. It's awkward the way it's in the pot, this one, but I want him about central. That's it there. Okay. Good. Oops. And then what I'm going to do is just take this loose, nice soil, let it into the hole at the edges. Gently let that go down. A little bit at a time. Don't want to be leaving voids in the ground. A little bit at a time, all the way around. So Probably should wear gloves for this, but get used to rubby hands in the garden. Don't want to pack it in too hard because it's going to settle as it rains. Don't want to cram it in. To be fairly open, but say without air pockets that are down there. So I'm pressing it, but not, you know, I'm not forcing it down there. Just gently in. That's about right. Now, what we don't want to do with any trees or plants really, or for the most cases, is I'm going to get rid of this, but build it up too high. Sometimes I see people, they've planted a plant either too deep, and so the soil, the compost is built up around the stem like that, and that could be really bad for the tree. So we just want to go down to where the existing pot level was. I don't need all this, so I'm going to get rid of it. Just to show you. There, those roots can go in. They're not doing much anyway there. Okay, now that gives me this little bit of a dish, which is just a little bit lower than the ground around it. And the reason I do that, if I put trees in people's gardens, I always say this is to help you, and it works a treat, is as a watering bowl, if you like. You can fill up this area here and water in the tree, and it will sink round all around. Just hold a little bit of extra water, because watering is important, you know, certainly for the first year, maybe for the first 2 years, depending on the weather. Come on, Mr. Worm, you go in the hole. You're going to want to look after this tree. Don't forget, these are used to being watered in the summer. When these are on a nursery, they're watered every day, sometimes twice a day. That's what keeps them healthy. To suddenly put them in an environment where it hasn't rained and doesn't get watered, that could really stress them out. Now, it's good to keep the labels on, but I'm going to take this one off so that it doesn't blow around. Tie itself up and damage the delicate bark of the tree. I'll give you that, just keep that for me, thank you. I'm going to keep this one on so it identifies the variety. It's not going to do any damage, and it's not going to blow away in the wind. So the only thing remaining to do is to put the tree ties on. Now there's all sorts. Come close, Joe. Do I want a coffee? We will water it, yeah, if you get some, yeah. Forgot the watering. Right then. Come close to me, so the thing to do is to make go around the tree. You know, I always forget these. I'm going to go in this case just over that so this doesn't slip down, because it's only a small tree. Whoops. You'd think by now, after all these years, get them right first time, but got other things to think about. Here we are. So that goes around there. This comes back this way like so. These are adjustable, so you can tighten them or indeed loosen them if needs be. I don't want it too tight. I don't want to be pulling it over. Just want it held in place there. Is that pulled over? Maybe. That's fine. And then this one going on the other side to counter wind. There's no leaves on the tree at the moment, as you can see. It's February. It's winter. I can't say February very well. That's it. So when the leaves do come on though, and if the wind catches it, it'll be blowing this way. Well, that's going to prevent that. We don't want to be letting this tree blow into these stakes. But worse than that, if I could probably demonstrate with this, imagine this is your tree. It's not staked and the wind comes. You see what's happening? The same thing will be happening with the root ball on the tree. The roots are trying to make their way into there. They get pulled up, pulled out of the ground on both sides. The tree will never get going. It's called wind rock, and we really don't want that. So hopefully this will stop that happening. If the wind comes from any direction, I can tighten that. That tree's going to be pretty stable, and after a season or two, you won't need the stakes, and we'll take them away. But so while he's young and delicate like this, we've got to look after him. Just remain to water him in. He's not going to drink a lot of water. There's no foliage on which is going to make the plant transpire or use the water up or bring it up. But what we do in this case, the water will settle the soil around the root ball. You can see how that little watering bowl is working. Look, the water's there, it's contained, it's going where I want. Luckily this soil drains very well. It's hard to overwater on it. But drowning things is just as bad as letting them dry out, I suppose. Right, I'm happy with that. It looks good. I hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments or find us at russellsgardencentre.co.uk. Send us an email. We'll be happy to help. We kind of do this because we love it. It's our life, it's not just our job. So we're always willing to help. Okay, I hope you found that useful, and got another 13 trees to plant today. Bye now.